For today's video, I want to talk about the role of filters in Walstad Method aquariums since it's an area which often causes some confusion in the hobby. I want to start by covering what the most recent edition of Diana Walstad's book actually says about using filters in this type of setup. Then I want to compare how technical filters stack up against live plants when it comes to different types of filtration to try and help you find the best option for your tank. Now, I've only read the most recent edition of Diana Walstad's book, and in it she mentions the use of filters several times. From what I understand, earlier editions of the book didn't include filters as part of the setup for this type of aquarium. Even now, the filter is considered optional, but it can make things considerably easier, especially if you're new to the hobby or new to the Walstad method. For instance, in this photo from the book, Diana clearly states that she doesn't use any type of filter in aquariums under 20 US gallons. She also explains that when she does choose to use a filter, it's mainly to improve the water circulation, helping to distribute heat, oxygen and nutrients more evenly through the tank so plants can make better use of them. So moving on, and I want to talk about the importance of water flow in a planted tank, as this is the main reason Diana chooses to add filters to some of her tanks. Since our plants are stationary in our aquariums, they rely on the movement of water to bring nutrients to them. But while these compounds are classified as nutrients for plants, at least some of them are actually toxins for fish, shrimp and snails. If these nutrients aren't absorbed, they can build up to harmful levels and lead to serious issues in your aquarium. But there's actually different types of water flow in the tank, and I like to think of them as active water flow and passive water flow. Active water flow comes from equipment like filters, power heads and USB water pumps. These devices use electricity to create movement in the water to push the nutrients around the tank. Passive water flow, on the other hand, is caused by natural processes such as convection from temperature differences in the water and our fish and shrimp moving around. While this does only provide a gentle flow, it can still be enough for many Walstad Method aquarium setups. For example, I recently removed the filter from my Walstad cherry shrimp tank, and while toxic compounds such as ammonia and nitrite haven't seen any increases in this setup, the absence of the active water flow does seem to have had some side effects. As you can see here, there's black hair algae starting to form on the moss in this specific tank. My guess is that it's because without the active water flow, nutrients are settling onto the moss rather than being circulated around the tank and the fast-growing stems in the back being able to process them. That said, not all of my filterless Walstad Method tanks have this problem. My pearlweed jungle tank and my endless life bearer breeding tank are both filterless Walstad Method tanks, and they've never shown problems with algae. My personal theory is that this is because those tanks have plants actively covering a wider area of the aquarium, while my cherry shrimp tank has 2/3 of the surface area covered in moss rather than plants. So because the moss grows considerably slower than plants, it just seems to let the nutrients build up in that area, and then the blackbeard algae starts to take hold, but I am trying to deal with it. So moving on, and I want to do a comparison of technical filters and live plants, since both offer unique advantages and disadvantages when it comes to maintaining a healthy aquarium. Starting with mechanical filtration, which is all about trapping particles and debris in the water to get that crystal clear aquarium look. When it comes to this, technical filters such as hang-on-backs, internals and canisters definitely come out on top. These filters allow you to add media such as filter floss, which does a great job of capturing the fine particles and physically removing them from the water column. Plants, on the other hand, do offer minimal mechanical filtration, but it's really not comparable. Over time, the leaves of the plants will build up a coating of biofilm that can trap some debris, but it is a very, very small amount. For instance, in my Walstad pearlweed jungle tank, I regularly feed leaves to the shrimp that live in there as a treat because they absolutely love them. Unfortunately, as my shrimp rip the leaves to pieces enjoying their treat food, a lot of the particles are released into the water column and it does catch the eye. In specific cases like this, adding a small filter with some filter floss in it or doing water changes on a more regular basis can be enough to prevent the issue. Another option is to stop adding actual leaves to the tank and switch it out for dehydrated pellets, which is my personal plan moving forward as this batch of leaves gets used up. Next up is biological filtration, which refers to the process of keeping toxic ammonia and toxic nitrite levels low enough so they don't harm our fish. Now, on paper, this category is a draw between technical filters and live plants because both can do the job. But they actually go about doing this in different ways, and it is important to understand the differences of what's happening here. Technical filters rely on colonies of beneficial microorganisms, mostly bacteria, but there is some archaea in there too, that will convert toxic ammonia into toxic nitrite and then into the far less toxic nitrate. Fast-growing aquatic plants, on the other hand, absorb ammonium directly from the water as a nutrient source. By doing this, they also reduce the remaining toxic ammonia levels, meaning that there's less nitrite and nitrate being produced in the first place. Once the toxic ammonia levels are under control and ammonium isn't being produced anymore, many aquatic plants shift to using nitrate as their preferred nitrogen source, helping to prevent excessive nitrate buildup in the aquarium. It's also worth noting that plants don't actually work alone with this secondary filtration method. Both the leaves of the plants and various other surfaces throughout the aquarium will still host small colonies of beneficial microorganisms that assist with maintaining the nitrogen cycle. But these colonies are considerably smaller than tanks that rely on filters for their filtration. Now, while both systems can keep both toxic ammonia and toxic nitrite at undetectable levels, I personally think that fast-grown plants or fast-grown plants supported by a filter definitely have the edge. This is because plants not only help control nitrate levels, reducing the need for water changes, but they also provide a lesser known benefit as they reduce the tank's biological oxygen demand. In some setups, especially tanks that are overstocked and overfed, the largest consumer of dissolved oxygen in the tank isn't actually your fish, it can be your beneficial microorganisms in the filter. By allowing plants to take some of the biological filtration load, you're reducing the number of microorganisms needed in your specific setup, and in turn reducing the overall oxygen demand on your system because they can use a surprisingly high amount of oxygen. To give you a concrete example, this research paper found that duckweed reduced the biological oxygen demand by 75%, probably because it was able to absorb 72% of the ammonium in the water, reducing the need for beneficial microorganisms in that specific setup. Now, duckweed can cover the surface of your tank and reduce gas exchange slightly, but it doesn't completely block it as long as you stay on top of maintenance and remove a lot of the excess duckweed every week. And then on top of that, in heavily planted aquariums such as Walstad Method tanks, I'm confident that the oxygen produced through photosynthesis during the day more than makes up for it. Then we also have to factor in the reduced oxygen demand from the microorganisms is a huge net positive too, and I don't remember ever seeing my fish gasping at the air in my Walstad Method tanks. So, in short, plants don't just increase oxygen levels during the day via photosynthesis, they also reduce how much oxygen is consumed 24 hours per day by minimising the need for large microbacterial colonies. Now, it is true that plants will respire at night when the lights go off, consuming oxygen and releasing CO2, and it is hard to pinpoint exactly how much oxygen they need, since it depends on several factors like plant species, tank size, and overall plant mass. However, if you are concerned about nighttime oxygen levels, one simple option is to switch over to the daily light integral method for your lighting. This involves you lowering the light intensity for your aquarium but extending the actual duration of your photo period, sometimes up to 12 hours per day. This increases the amount of time that your plants are photosynthesizing and producing oxygen each day, while also reducing the nighttime period where they'll be absorbing oxygen and producing CO2. Personally, I keep my aquarium lights on for around 6 hours per day and I haven't noticed any issues with that photo period. Finally, we get to chemical filtration, and this is an area where many people think about specific, often temporary solutions such as activated carbon to remove medications or something like Purigen to remove tannins. In those two specific cases, a technical filter definitely pulls ahead and gets the win since you can easily add these media types to your filter. But chemical filtration also includes products like Walstad, which are designed to remove phosphate from your water and reduce algae growth. And this is where I personally think plants completely outperform technical filters. Plants are just far more effective at passively removing the trace elements that build up in our aquarium water. I know I've touched on this in a couple of videos recently, but it is worth repeating that the phytoremediation industry, which uses plants to clean up contaminated soil, water and sediments, is a multi-billion-dollar per year global industry. It's very well researched and very well funded because it works so well and we can take advantage of these concepts in our aquariums. Here's a table that I put together showing the absorption rate from one of the research papers for the phytoremediation industry, which used Lemna minor, commonly known as duckweed, to treat some water. Without plants like this to soak up these elements, they'd simply build up and stay in the tank until a water change is completed. Not everyone keeps shrimp in their tanks and they are still a niche stocking option, but they are far more sensitive to copper than fish. But that research paper showed that the duckweed in that test removed over 80% of the copper in the water. I know that there are different products similar to Walstad targeted towards different minerals and compounds, but plants just do all of them passively. So when it comes to chemical filtration, or more specifically elemental and compound filtration, plants blow technical filters out the water. To wrap up the video, I just want to share a little bit of advice on choosing the right approach for your specific Walstad Method aquarium. If you are new to this style of aquarium, then I do strongly recommend that you start with a filter. It just gives you that extra safety net for biological filtration, it improves mechanical filtration, and it provides a reliable source of water flow to distribute heat, oxygen and various nutrients more efficiently through the tank. For smaller aquariums such as 12 US gallon or 45 litre tanks and under, something as simple and affordable as the Nicrew Slim hang-on back filter is more than enough, and I use this on several of my non-Walstad Method tanks without issue. Then once you've built up some experience and feel more comfortable with this method of keeping your aquariums, you can consider going filterless, and in some cases you can probably just take your filter off your current aquarium because your plants will be established and they might be able to hold the cycle. I currently have 5 Walstad Method tanks and all of them are currently running without filters with no detectable ammonia or nitrite in their water column. Personally, I don't really see the Walstad Method in the same way as fish keeping, shrimp keeping or aquascaping, where we can overfeed, overstock or dose a lot of liquid fertilizers into the tank and rely on water changes to fix things. The goal here is to move beyond a specific niche of the hobby and become a more well-rounded aquarium keeper where every part of the system is considered from the start to keep things balanced and safe. With this method, water changes and filters are more of a backup plan or something that you turn to in emergencies if you make a mistake rather than something you rely on day to day to keep the tank stable. I know that it's not for everyone and that's totally fine, but from what I'm seeing on YouTube and TikTok, this approach is definitely increasing in popularity and I'm getting a lot more questions specific to Walstad Method tanks. Anyway guys, that brings the video to an end. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for watching and good luck with your Walstad Method setups.